get this party started. What is going on? Family, glad to be back with you. Sound working and everything okay? Hold on. Oh, yep, sound working. All right, we can keep our business going then. So glad to have you back for another episode of Soul Swami Live. I am Anthony, otherwise known as Soul Swami. What we do here is discuss healing in all of its various formats through learning new information, through live energy readings, through discussions and asking questions. Hey, pretty black girl. Um, I actually was thinking about you the other day. I hope you had a good weekend. Um, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm about to put too much of my business. I definitely forgot this weekend was Valentine's Day, and I'm just reaching out to people like, "Hey, man, you want to hang out this weekend?" As if people might not have plans, but I hope you enjoyed your weekend and your Valentine's Day, and hopefully you did something special to be able to honor yourself and the love you carry. So anyway, so glad to be back with you again. Like I said, Soul Swami Live, we discuss all things healing. Tonight we will be continuing our discussion on the 12 universal laws. We are on law 7, which is the law of cause and effect. So we'll be understanding what are causes, what are effects, and how they all impact our lives. If you, we also are supposed to be having a guest joining tonight. Oh man. Oh, you know what I meant to ask? Because I know you had that midnight shift too. So I wasn't sure if that was Sunday at midnight or Saturday at midnight, but I was like, man, I don't want to seem like I'm too much in her business. Out here seeming wild to grab me to crossing boundaries and stuff. But again, I'll take that offline anyway because nobody else cares. So if you would like to catch our show, we are on every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can also catch a spinoff of our Tuesday night show, which is our Thursday night book club at Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can catch both shows on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Those 4 places, whichever one you feel most comfortable with streaming. But make sure you hit that follow, that subscribe, or whatever you need to do to be able to get the notifications on when we ever go live. And if you ever feel like you need to have an energy reading or you would like to join and have an energy reading or join the discussion, don't be afraid to hit the link to join the live. At the beginning of every show, we do a little bit of energy work. And this week we are on our sacral, which resides right below your belly button and includes your genital area, your genital. So it includes all that area. Your sacral is the energy point for your sexuality, your emotions, your pleasure, your creativity, and how you navigate relationships. We make a lot of choices through our sacral. If you are into color therapy or light therapy, you want to make sure you spend a little more time with orange because orange is the color for your sacral. Hence the orange lighting going on right now. The element for your sacral is water. So also spend a little bit of time with water if you are into the elements. If you are into essential oils, you want to think of rose, patchouli, orange, clary sage, are all good smells, good scents for. I did this last time. I keep moving the camera over and it keeps putting me right behind the words. But clary sage are all good for essential oils. If you are into crystals and gemstones, you want to think tiger's eyes, cornelian, amber, orange calcite, citrine, and bronzite. All of those are very good for your sacral energy point. Next thing we do is a little bit of sound therapy, and then we do some breath work. So during this time, the only thing I want you to do is just focus on the positive and releasing some of the negative energies of the day and raising your vibrations with positive energy. Allow yourself a little bit of space to relax and just listen to the sound. Well, I appreciate you on Twitch. Make sure you hit that subscribe so you can follow and catch whenever I'm on live. The next thing we do is a breathing exercise. It is These breathing exercises always put you in a space. It gives you a tool to be able to adjust your energy whenever necessary, relieve yourself of stress, anxiety, even change your focus, anger, fear, all those things. So right now, I think for today we want to do 444. We're going to go back to box breathing. If you are unfamiliar with box breathing is simply you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, and you exhale or release for 4 seconds. But during this time, the only thing I want you to do is just focus in on your energy, releasing the negative energy and inhaling or breathing in and attracting the positive energy. So you just got to listen to the sound of my voice, and I will keep the count for you. Just follow me. On the count of 3, family, we will start. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. And as your energy is calming and transforming and reshaping, I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. These affirmations again are good in support of your sacral or your sexuality, your emotions, your creativity, your pleasure, and your relationships. We want to make sure that we are adding this positive energy into our lives. So repeat these affirmations after me. I am a creative being. I deserve to enjoy life. I am emotionally balanced. I welcome sensuality into my life. I am worthy and lovable. Those are affirmations to be able to support you when you need to remind yourself and need some support of your energy. So remember those. All right, family, we can get this party started. We try to be mindful. We're supposed to continue our discussion. Well, we are continuing our discussion on the 12 universal laws. We're supposed to have a guest, Andrew Smith, joining us in maybe about 10 minutes or so. And with him, we will go through some questions and learn how to apply or navigate this idea of cause and effect within the context of understanding what cause and effect is. Because we're doing this a little differently this week, when he joins, it's slightly reversed. So normally we wind up talking about cause and effect first and then have a discussion. But because of time, situations, and circumstances, and being respectful for everyone's energy, we had to do it a little reverse. So this week we'll have a discussion with Andrew Smith on the law of cause and effect. Just some questions to be able to help us guide through that. And then next week, depending on the time, we will discuss what the law of cause and effect is. But before we start there, I want to, I just want to share something that I heard that was it was like it offered me some clarity. It gave me a new perspective and something else to think about. So I talk about all the time how I am a part of a men's group, and we generally meet every Monday, and we just have different discussions. So this week we were having a discussion around masculinity and passive masculinity and healthy masculinity. So it wound up being a good discussion. But before we got to the discussion, generally, like I said in the beginning, while we're waiting for all the brothers to join, we'll watch videos or listen to music or something like that to be able to set the energy and the tone for the night. So we were watching this video, and something that one of the brothers said on the video that kind of stood out to me. He dropped this idea. He was talking about ancestors and how we move forth in being our most authentic self, and how we shape our healing or our identity or any of those things, right? And he said most of us are living our lives on the conclusions and decisions of a child. And when he said that, the first thing that came in my mind was that idea of, as I became an adult, I let go of my childish ways, right? And it was always hard to explain or fully understand what that is, because many of us think that means letting go of some of the things that we enjoyed so much as a child. But in our healing process, we're learning to reconnect to that child. And the whole purpose of reconnecting with that child is bringing into the present time and carrying into the future with us things that we've always enjoyed, things that always nourished our spirit, things that always helped our emotion. Those things that, even though we did them as a child, those were our foundational years where we were finding out about ourselves and what we liked and what we didn't like. And many of us left those things behind because we thought of them as as childish, right? But when we think about our childish ways, we don't always think about how that applies in other aspects. And one way it applies is our decisions. What was it again? our decisions and our conclusions that we made as a child. Think about this like this. Think about how many decisions or how many mantras or how many ideas that you live by now that you started when you were a child. Something happened to you. Think about something happened to you in the time you thought, I would never do that again when you were a child. Have you done that again? Do those ideas still fit who you are as you become an adult, right? Is it fair to have your life blueprint written out by someone who lacked the experience and the understanding, even though that someone was you? They weren't at that point. The version of you as a child was not fully equipped with the tools to be able to navigate all these experiences and have healthy conclusions, right? So one of the reasons we do this whole show is to build our self-awareness. And we carve in a time that allow us to review and reassess some of these decisions and some of these conclusions that we made as children that are now guiding our lives and our experiences, because we're learning, if for nothing else, through the 12 universal laws, how powerful our thoughts are. Our beliefs become our actions, and then our actions create outcomes. And we want to have outcomes that reflect who we really think we are, or who we are internally, or reflect the healthy choices and healthy living that we all aspire to be. Thank you. So if you were here last week, we're going to get into the review. Last week we discussed, excuse me, I got to get my life together. Last week we discussed the law of perpetual transmutation. Now, that's just a bunch of big words to be able to say that energy is always shifting and moving. Energy is always changing. And we have the ability to transform lower energies into higher vibrational energies, right? Meaning that we don't have to be stuck in any negative emotions, because the power to raise those negative emotions and negative experiences into positive experiences resides in us. We're all in this process learning how powerful we are, right? And understanding the law of perpetual transmutation, the ability to change energy, manipulate energy, learning our energy alchemy. Excuse me. We learned that higher energy has the ability to consume lower energy, right? We also learned that energy is always in motion, always in motion. And we have that subtle reminder with the word of emotions that reminds us all the time that even our emotions are energy in motion, right? We also learned through the law of perpetual transmutation that we have the ability to change our emotional state at will, right? So you apply that belief that you have the power to change your emotional state, and you can do that. So there's no need for us to ever say we woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or that has just ruined my day, because at any moment we can transmute that energy that is negative and not supporting a healthy experience for us into energy that will support a healthy experience, will give us a better day, allow us the space to be able to experience better outcomes, right? We have the power to change our emotional state at will. We don't have to be mad when we have the ability to be calm. We don't have to be reactive when we have the ability to be thoughtful. And generally, all it does take is a shift in your thinking to begin that change, right? We also understood that small changes, small shifts can create big changes, right? So many times we think of these large things that we have to do, but in this process, one thing that we've talked about bunch is the idea of celebrating the small victories. It is those small steps that compound and build on each other that create the bigger things that we are trying to manifest, are trying to navigate our lives into, right? So we don't have to always look at the umbrella. We can look at that one raindrop that just fell. We don't always have to see the forest. We can take our time and look at the individual trees, right? We address all the larger things are always affected by simple, small changes that we make. Like that idea of the butterfly effect that we talked about. Hey, Sherry. So glad to have you. And I appreciate you. Yeah. You be right on. As a matter of fact. Okay, I was gonna say you like Jesus, but I'm gonna change that because that could be offensive to some people. But I can definitely tell you definitely are a child of God, as some people would say, because you might not be there when they call, but you always right on time. All right, that's right. So I appreciate you, Sherry. No doubt. That was just a notification that our guest will be joining in a few, right? Outside of that, we also learned that we are not controlled by low vibrational energy. As I stated, higher energy can consume, eat that negative emotion. So whenever we find ourselves in a negative space, negative thought patterns, negative energy, we have the ability to change that energy, not necessarily change those around us, but change our internal world or change the space that we are within that is not supporting a healthy version of ourselves. Hey, Toddy, the throuple here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Sherry, get mad at Toddy. Toddy was in the car accident and she ain't tell nobody. So, you gotta give a little hate. She need to be ostracized. I know that's right. Okay. And I can tell you that not even just that just shows also how much you've grown in trusting yourself and trusting your intuition and trusting that connection. So again, I appreciate you. I'm glad that you are a part of my life, right? So we also discussed the science behind the law of transmutation. One scientific idea that supports the law of transmutation is the law of conservation of energy. And that simply says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? Also, another scientific idea that supports the law of perpetual transmutation was the law of thermodynamics, like just thermodynamics as a whole. And essentially, just to try to break down what thermodynamics is simply energy naturally moving towards transformation. That is the natural progress of energy. So whenever you decide to change, the energy is going to support you because that's the natural motion of energy. It's natural for rain to turn to gas, to turn back into water. That is natural. We don't have to do anything to make that happen, although we even have the ability to add in new elements to make those natural transformations happen, which is also evidence in the power that we have in making change. Oh, she all right. She can go to lunch. You know, she got done. She outside doing donuts in the truck. Yeah, she good. So we don't gotta be that mad. We just gotta be a little bit mad because she ain't tell nobody. All right. So another scientific idea that supports the law of perpetual transmutation in our review of what we've been discussing is neuroscience. Neuroscience supports the law of transmutation because it helps us to understand that emotions are energy-based biological states. Because thoughts create electrical impulses in our brain, right? And those things can be measured with the proper equipment. So neuroscience support that these thoughts can create these impulses and changes in our brain, right? The reshape our brain. Also, we learned about cognitive reappraisal, which simply is reframing of our thoughts, which ties back into that first idea that we discussed when how many of us are functioning in this space of conclusions and decisions that the child version of ourselves made, and we are living our life. That creates that space, though. That gives us a space for that cognitive reappraisal, or the reframing of our thoughts and opinions, right? Right. Next, we wanted to make sure that we understood how, okay, family, how the law of perpetual transmutation was applicable. And simply it is, one, you can shift out of negative energy states anytime you want, right? We want to also understand how, in a way that is applicable to us, that small positive actions create the change in our trajectory, right? We want to be a little bit healthier. We don't have to be all the way in shape. We can start with taking the stairs instead of the elevator. That small step will make a difference in our life. We want to have better relationships. All we have to do is, we don't have to focus on the outcome. How do I get better relationships? All we have to do is just think about, I want to respond to people, experiences, and situations more lovingly. Small positive actions change your total trajectory. It changes how you view yourself. It changes how people view you, because you behave differently because of how you view yourself differently. Also, in understanding this, how it was applicable was through, we have the power to change our inner world. We don't have to sit in chaos, confusion, and unclear about certain things. We don't have to sit in fear. We don't have to function in this space of survival, because we have the power to change that energy, with starting with our thoughts and ideas, and of course followed by our actions, and understanding the law of transmutation, that we have the ability to change the energy. Understanding that law and knowing that we have the ability, accepting that we have the ability to change the energy, allows us to become more comfortable and be able to rest in the power that we do have, right? That is what it winds up helping us do. And all of these things that we are doing, the totality, we talk about different things every single week, small individual steps that we talk about every single week. A new perspective is that small individual steps. We talk about that every week, and it allows us to better understand our power, so we won't be in that space of normalizing the greatness that we are, right? So this week, we are talking about the law of cause and effect. So I'm crunk because I got my streaming service. I finally got one of these shirts. I'm probably gonna wear it for book club Thursday. So Thursday you get to see one of my one of my streaming shirts, because I've been winning awards. Y'all been helping us win stuff, and we've been so focused on getting the job done and doing the work that we haven't even been able to celebrate or enjoy some of the fruits of our labor, right? Okay, so the law of cause and effect. What does that mean? What is the law of cause and effect? First, we want to start in this understanding that every action has a consequence. One thing that we've moved is from coincidence and The next thing that we're moving from is chance. Nothing in life happens by chance, i.e., every effect has a cause. That is simply the cause and effect. There is no chance. Everything has a cause. And that's how energy moves, right? In understanding this, what is a cause? How am I creating cause? And this cause, in the understanding of the law of cause and effect, is your thoughts. Cause is your emotions. Cause are your words, actions, habits, and intentions. These are all the things that cause or create outcomes in your life, right? So, what are effects? If causes are thoughts, emotions, words, actions, habits, and intentions, what are the effects? Again, effects are outcomes, experiences, circumstances, and results. It is what happens after our causes, is what happens after our thoughts, is what happens after our emotions, is what happens after we say those words, is what happens after we do those things, is what happens after we establish our intentions, right? So, when we think about the law of cause and effect, we want to make sure that we understand that it works on various levels. So we don't just have to apply cause and effect to the general thing. We can start breaking it down and start seeing on different levels that it work on, right? So it works on a mental level when we're thinking about this idea of cause and effect. How does it work on a mental level? It works because our repeated thoughts shape our beliefs. Whatever we think about all the time is going to shape what we believe about what we're seeing, right? So if I think there aren't many good people, that's going to change what I see, right? If I think that people aren't trustworthy, that's going to change what I see, right? These beliefs not only do our shape our beliefs, but our beliefs in turn shape our perception. How we see things, right? And then our perception directly affects our decision making. Again, so if I think that people aren't necessarily trustworthy, and I don't always see them as trustworthy, my thought is going to shape my belief. I don't think people are trustworthy. I believe that people aren't trustworthy. And then that's also going to shape my decision making when I interact with people. Hold on one second, family. I think our guest may have joined. So we're going to try to get this started. Brother, can you hear me? Okay, hold on. I can't hear you. Let me see if we get this together.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I can. Hold on. Quiet. I got to turn up the volume a second. Hold on. Give me a second. Hey, man, what's going on?
All right. I finally got in. Sorry for the delay. I don't know why this is going on so slow.
Bro, camera kind of big. All right. Here we go. We can get this party started, bro. Hold on. Let me get to my volume. Family, can y'all hold on? Let me make sure they're hearing you well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab a mic real quick too. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I know I heard you. So, okay, no, hold on.
Okay, I'll grab a mic too, just in case. 1 second.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So do I need to turn up the volume or something? Or no, he's good. Okay, so we did. Fantastic. Thank you for your help. All right, you might boo 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 boo. So it's just me. Fantastic, Liberty. So glad to have you here. All right, I think he might have thought that we couldn't hear him, so he stepped out. I anticipate he'll join back. So we gonna keep the party going as we wait for that. Do 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 do. I shall get a notification. All right, family, where were we? We were how it works on how the law of cause and effect works on various levels. We just talked about how it works on a mental level, but we want to also understand how cause and effects works on an emotional level. This understanding starts with us knowing that emotions influence behaviors and reactions all based on those feelings or the stories that we tell ourselves. I'm gonna take this off because the stories that we tell ourselves, those are feelings. Feelings are the stories that we tell ourselves based on the emotions that we have felt, right? So on the emotional thing, we understand emotions influence our behaviors. How we respond for many of us is emotionally based, right? And those emotional based decisions and actions create an outcome, right? It also works on a behavioral level, right? It's because we understand that actions directly create results, right? One of the things that we talk about a lot of time is this idea of freedom of speech. We hear a lot of conversation about freedom of speech. And one thing that we learned about freedom of speech is we may live in a space that gives us freedom of speech, but freedom of speech does not guarantee you freedom of consequence because every cause has an effect. The words you say will create outcomes. So just because you have the freedom to say things, that freedom to say those things does not absolve you from the consequences. And based on this law, we understand that every cause has an effect. So every thought, action, behavior will create an outcome or experience that we have in our lives, right? Okay, there we go. Sorry. So the next thing that we want to understand about the law of cause and effects is this idea of time delay. And many of us get caught up in time delay. What is time delay as it relates to cause and effect? It is that effects aren't always immediate. And a lot of times we live in this society now where instant gratification is something that a lot of us are looking for. But in the law of cause and effect, we understand that there is time delay built into life. Everything is not immediate. If I plant a seed today, I will not immediately have a flower tomorrow. There are certain things that I will need to do to make sure that I can cultivate a space for that flower to grow, right? So we understand that, for example, we can do a diet change as we talked about earlier. Diet changes. A diet change today affects our long-term health. We may not see the benefits of that. If I start working out today, I'm not going to lose 10 pounds today. But me starting today begins the foundation for me to be able to lose those 10 pounds, right? Right? Diet changes. That's the idea. That is a simple idea of the time delay that causes effects aren't always immediate, right? The next thing that we want to understand, and this supports one of the ideas that we do all the time, is when it comes to the law of cause and effect, it is neutral, right? So it kind of removes this idea of karma, because the law is neutral, meaning that the law does not judge in terms of good and bad. That is what we apply to the experience. That is what we apply to the thoughts. That is what we apply to the people. The law itself just identify what is. It just reflects the results. And one thing that we're doing in our healing is this. We're moving from the space of being able to judge what is good and bad. Because what's good for me may be bad for you. What's bad for you may be good for me. What we want to do is make sure that we understand what is at play so that we can make the decisions. We spend a lot of time in terms of good or bad, and we miss the larger picture of what is at play, right? What is at play? Okay. All right. We rolling. Next thing we want to understand, as we're discussing the law of cause and effect, we like to, again, we're moving away from this idea of mystical and mysticism in some of these ideas we're talking about, and we're showing direct connect to things that we already learned. So what is the science behind the law of cause and effect? One scientific principle that supports the law and effect is physics. Physics is one of the interesting classes for me because I actually love physics. I like geometry. I liked physics too, which was wild. But the one thing I could never do in physics was pay attention. I used to get in trouble in physics all the time because I was sitting in the front row, spend my time with my back to the teacher, looking out the window like something was wrong. It used to be so wild. We had this joke, no lie, that I was sitting around talking about, hey, Mr. Rabbit, hey, Mr. Squirrel. Yes, I like geometry. One, dead serious, I'm not even gonna lie. One, the reason why I say I like geometry is because of the real life applications, and two, my teacher. So I had a good teacher, right? I enjoyed him. He seemed like a big brother. Me and him used to go at it all the time, right? So when I say I like geometry, I don't like the mathematics of geometry, like finding the angle and circumference. I don't like the mathematics of geometry, but I like how applicable geometry is to life. For example, I love driving. Well, scratch. I don't love driving. I love cars. I don't mind driving. Driving takes a lot of geometry to make sure you don't hit those curves or hit another car. You got to know angles, distance, all those things. I also love pool. Pool is all geometry. It literally is all geometry. What angle do I need to hit this at? One of the things I always say, I can tell who enjoyed geometry when we're playing pool, right? They may not have liked the math of it, but some people like them angles and shapes. We see babies who like angles and shapes. They play with them all the time. So I like geometry because I like pool. Those are just two examples of real life applicable things that geometry winds up helping. So when they tell you we learned all this stuff and we can't use it in life, I firmly always think, and this is me being judgmental, oh, you must do bad at word problems. Because these tools, something like geometry, helps us solve the word problems of life. Oh, no. Yeah, okay. So you can suck at pool. And still like geometry. So you don't have to be good at pool and still like geometry. What you wind up seeing is they can see the angles. They might not be able to tell you it's a 45-degree angle. They might not be able to tell you if it's obtuse or acute. But when you be like, yo, you got to hit this at this side so it only gets that to go off to the left. I got to hit it on the right, on the left side to make it go right. They can see those angles. Now they have to work on the skills to be able to hit those angles, but they can see those angles. So even though you suck at pool, I know you do like geometry because at least you like the shapes and the angles of it, right? You know what I mean? Another way I know that you like geometry, or another life example of geometry, is taking pictures. Taking pictures, you take a picture and you always try to make sure you have the right angle. Pictures are all about angles and lightings, angles and lighting, angle and lighting. So geometry just slides into the creative aspects of life. So forgive me. We got sidetracked on geometry. Boy, I love, see, that's how I know. Nerds. Another scientific idea that winds up supporting the law of cause and effects is simple biology, right? And in biology, we learn that causes create physical outcomes, right? And that is simply the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis to get a conclusion. That is the scientific method. So we understand that biology, and we also understand through biology how our behaviors affect our health. Again, if we're drinking every day, or let me start adding this, binge drinking. Because we have a lot of people who think because they don't drink every day, alcohol is not necessarily affecting them, but when they do drink, they get it in. So binge drinking can affect you too. So biology, binge drinking every day, we know has a long-term effect. Our biology eat that. Eating fried food every day has a long-term effect. Our biology teach that. When we put too much salt, there's a long-term effect. Our biology teach that. If we have too much dairy and a bunch of mucus in our chest, we know our biology teaches that. So our actions, causes, thoughts, actions, behaviors create outcomes. We understand that, right? Another scientific idea that supports the law of cause and effect is neuroscience. Neuroscience support this in that thoughts cause brain changes, right? So we keep saying that when we change our thoughts, when we change our beliefs, our brain changes. It does. Neuroscience shows that our brain can reshape itself based on what we repeatedly think about or what we repeatedly do, right? So let's put this in terms of self-talk, right? What type of outcomes do we get when we have repeated negative self-talk? Lower self-esteem, lower confidence. Our brain shapes and reshapes into believing that we're not worthy, we don't have confidence, we're not deserving, we're not loved. Love isn't for us. Something is wrong with us. That negative self-talk. And then we can wind up flipping that, right? And reshaping our brain by thinking positive. Like when we started doing our words to figure out what would be the words that we want to start building relationship, reshaping our relationship with, and the idea of worthy showed up. When we start believing we are worthy, we start thinking, we start behaving like we are worthy, and we get worthy experiences. People treat us as we are worthy because we carry a worthy energy, because a certain level of pride within ourselves that we carry with a certain level of certainty, because we know who we are. We have done the work to understand our identity. Lastly, the systems theory supports the idea of cause and effect by input determines output. So you get what you give, where we understand. So if I'm only doing a little bit, if I'm only giving a little bit of understanding, if I'm only giving a little bit of forgiveness, If I'm only given a little bit of trust, I get a little bit back. That's all you get. So that's one of the reasons why we work to be so vulnerable and open, because we want to get everything that we are worthy of and deserve back. We want to make sure that we are putting our everything in so that we can get our everyday back. We're removing the justification for our barriers, the walls that we created to keep us safe, and living on our boundaries. Right? That's what we're doing. System theories supports that input determines the output. What you put in determines what you get. Every system, whether it's your internal system, it can be your digestive system, or the growth patterns, or life cycles, or how you shape your behaviors. All of those things are systems that interplay with each other, and what we put in those systems will always determine what that we get out of these systems, right? Next, we want to discuss now that we have all this information and we understand what the law of cause and effect is, what's the science behind it. Now, we want to begin to start discussing what are the implications of the law of cause and effect. First implication, that we want to repeat and understand that life is not as random as we think. What happens to you rarely is accidental, right? It is outcomes are the results of visible or invisible causes, but you can guarantee that whatever outcome that you are experiencing, there is a cause. There was something that preceded that led into that outcome. I remember I was in a car accident. And even though that car accident was not my fault, there was a cause that preceded that, but he was not paying attention. His lapse in thought created a foundation for an outcome where we both had to experience an accident, right? Life is not as random, right? When we start seeing repeated results, if something is repeatedly happening to you, if something is continuously happening to you, then we want to pause and look at what could be the causes of this, right? Especially when looking at our life, because the only common denominator in these experiences, in these thoughts, ideas, what happens to us is us, right? So we'd have to look inside to begin to understand what are the causes for these repeated experiences, these repeated outcomes that we are experiencing, right? Right? We are the common denominator. So what inside of us is causing either the thoughts, the behaviors, the actions, or the intentions that create these outcomes? And that's not just looking at the negative outcomes. That's also reevaluating our successes. What did we do to create a successful outcome so that we can mimic that? We can do that again. If it isn't broken, don't try to fix it. So these ideas are not just for you to apply to the negative experiences to get a better understanding. You also use these tools to understand the positive aspects of you. What makes you so beautiful? What makes you so powerful? What makes you so special? What makes you so worthy? Those are also the things that we want to review, because they have causes as well. Right? Next, you are always creating results. Understand that. And we hear this statement a lot as it relates to voting, but the statement is true. Even in the law of cause and effects, the statement is true because it's based on some laws, right? You are always creating results. So even when you feel passive, you are still generating causes, right? Because inaction is a cause. Inaction. So you not doing something will get results regardless. I used to always tell people all the time, troubles will wait for you. You can ignore them. It's just like work. It's just like work. You can take a break. It'll be there when you get back. You dig? Troubles will wait for you. Inaction is a cause, right? Avoidance is a cause. You avoiding something. When we like to say that I justified my avoidant behavior by saying things like I'm a fourth quarter baller. I like to wait till the pressure is on. But no, my avoidance is creating the pressure. And I would tell myself the story and create feelings that support that I function best under pressure. But we already know that the human body does not function best under pressure. Pressure is not meant to be in your life always, right? Silence is a cause. If you don't say something, outcomes will still happen based on your silence. And the wildest thing when it comes to silence, you not saying something is literally giving your power to someone else to make decisions for your life. Silence is a cause. We are always generating results, even if we are behaving passively, right? Also, the law of cause and effects help us shape this idea that a lot of these laws and a lot of our understanding, our evolution goes around. Responsibility. We move from the space of blaming things, blaming outcomes. They did, she did, he did, to what inside of me, right? Responsibility. So we don't get lost in guilt. We don't get lost in disappointment. We figure out what causes set the foundation for these things, right? So we move into a space of responsibility, right? If we're asking a question, why does this keep happening to me, that many of us have asked? Once we recognize that we are the common denominator, then we can dig deeper and decide what the causes are. Not in a way to determine on if they're good or bad, but in a way to determine on what is there and if what is there is helping us, right? Not if it's good or bad, right? Because at some point it could have been excellent. But where you are in your life right now, it might not be, right? That's what we understand. That's where the law helps us move from blame into responsibility. We also understand that small choices matter just as much, if not more, than the bigger ones. As we stated, small acts compound. They build on each other, and now you got a big one. It's like a honeycomb. Each of those individual honey pockets, whatever you want to call them, come together to create this large structure that is a honeycomb. Those small steps, changing your diet, applying more empathy, being more loving, allowing trust in your life. Those small changes compound and change your trajectory, as we stated, and as they compound, you create repeated behaviors that support the new ideas, and now you have reshaped your destiny. This is why they say destiny is not always written in stone. The pages of that book have yet to be written, because at any point you can change that when you want to evolve, right? Okay, family, what's next? We also, another implication will be that thoughts matter just as much as actions. Thoughts are the foundation of actions. Thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become actions, and actions create outcomes, right? So we understand that thoughts matter. So we're careful of what we give our thought energy to, right? As we talked about the time delay, the implication is that time delay is built into reality. We accept that sometimes it takes time for these effects to manifest. Some causes are still at work. So we can't experience the effects until these causes are finished doing their job, right? Next, relationships reflect our causes. If we're having healthy relationships, it's based on our causes. If we're not happy with our relationships, as much as we like to look at the other partner, many times our partner are reflecting what's in us that we have yet to accept. So we understand that relationships reflect our causes. How we communicate reflects in our relationships. How we listen, how we set boundaries, all those things, how we respond. And not only do it create the outcomes for us individually, it shows other people how to behave and how to treat us, right? This is how we create those boundaries instead of barriers, by carrying a certain energy, so people automatically know how to treat us. We don't have to enforce our boundaries all the time, because we're carrying a energy that shows the boundary, right? You ever been around somebody that don't cuss? A lot of times they don't even have to tell you. You can just tell by their energy that they do not cuss. Also, an implication is awareness gives you leverage. Awareness gives you leverage, right? One of the things that we're understanding is in our healing process is to broaden our awareness, so that we start paying attention to, we understand that everything is interconnected. So we start paying attention not only to ourselves, but the things around us, or not just to the things around us, but we understand that we are not functioning outside of the system. We are the system, right? So as much as we want to escape the matrix, it's almost impossible, because we are also the matrix. The matrix does not exist outside of us. We play a pivotal role in that. And awareness gives us the leverage, because at any point we can interrupt the energy and apply new energy. If we are in a negative spiral, we can interrupt that energy and apply a new energy, right? Now that we see the implications, how is all this information applicable to my life? Oh, man. Oh, he joined? Okay. 4 minutes ago. Hold on. We're going to see your brother back. We're going to have a chat real quick, see if we can do it. Bro, can you hear me? You can hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me, though. Can the people in the chat hear me?
Hold on. That's my headphones. Hold on. Let me get my life together. Okay, fantastic. Oh, did he go again? Hey, hey. Okay, we about to wrap up. He okay, no, he back again. Hold on.
I haven't. I've been here since about 7:30 ish.
I can hear you. Hold on, I can hear you.
So,
What is going on? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, you can hear me good now, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, cool. We good business. All right, man. I'm sorry for the issue, the disconnect, or something like that. As a matter of fact, we've been having that discussion around cause and effect. We pretty much discussed most of it. We were on to the space of how it's applicable to our lives, but in respect for our time and energy. I generally only do the show for the hour.
Yeah.
So, but I know we had a little disconnect and things like that. So I do want to make sure we get some time to be able to understand who we are. I mean, not who we are, but who you are, and gives us the opportunity to be able to answer a couple of questions so we can start, so the audience and ourselves can start applying the law of cause and effect to our daily lives, right? So first, I just want to create a little space for you to be able to tell us a little bit about yourself, like who are you, and what brings you to us today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And the first thing I want to say is, man, I've been listening to you the last 20, 30 minutes or so and just dropping knowledge. I loved everything I was hearing. And it's just interesting, just the space I'm in my life. I'm about a year and maybe a couple months sober at this point in my life from alcohol. Um, and just been kicking other habits, over the last few months and things like that.
No doubt.
And that whole cause and effect thing, it's a reality. As far as when you start to, I think you said it earlier, what you put in is what you actually get out of it.
Definitely.
So it's just huge, and I guess and I think reaffirming just to hear you speak on that the way you have. I just want to say I appreciate that. For those who don't know, my name is Andrew. I am a entrepreneur, business owner, filmmaker in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm from Maryland, Largo, Maryland, originally, and we connected through a group chat with other men where it's all about uplifting each other. And I think there's like weekly calls on Monday evenings. And he had mentioned he had this podcast speaking on cause and effect, and I think it's and just some other things that I saw in the messages. And I was just like, you know what? I really want to be a part of this conversation in some way, shape, or form. And then when you think about cause and effect, a lot of things happened today that led to me being on like 10 minutes late.
So, hey, perfect real life example immediately.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's interesting because I didn't really, you sent me a list of questions that you were going to ask. And outside of the very last question, I didn't have a lot of answers for some of them. I knew I was going to be really thinking about that on the spot.
Right.
But I think because of all the technical issues we had today, me being here, just being able to listen to you explain these things and break it down actually gave me more clarity about
On how
what
to
you were
respond
asking
to
in the
them.
first place. And I
Right.
didn't know if that was like the strategy, if that was the plan to go into it, but it definitely helped me to understand, oh, this is where he's coming from. And this is where, like, this is what these questions mean. It's giving me just
Right.
more verbiage of how I can actually respond. So, for better or worse, I think all this happened for a reason.
No doubt, man. So no, it wasn't planned. As a matter of fact, I was just telling the people that so as a matter of fact, you joining wanting to be on the show or wanting to be able to participate helped me see a way that we can grow the show, right? And one way that I need to reshape the show specifically, at least while we're doing the 12 universal laws,
Mhm,
is actually asking questions to help facilitate the thought process and so people can actually start applying it, right? So we
mhm.
talked last night, we talked about adult learning principles and all these things like that. So you gave me an idea. So intentionally, I mean, going forward, I was going to create a session after we talk about the law, and then we'll ask some questions to help us be able to apply the law, right? So
Yeah,
it wound up, so I was telling everybody that we're doing it a little bit backwards this time because we're going to have the discussion before we actually discuss the law. So it wound up working out the way it was supposed to anyway, right?
that's
So
perfect.
you wind up being able to understand. So it gives us the context of what it is, and then we can have a general conversation. So what I sent you a couple of questions. I know I don't even remember all the questions that I necessarily sent you, but brother, we understand. You understand the context of what we're doing now. You know what I mean, or what the conversation is. So I
Yeah,
trust that you'll be able to answer some of these questions. And if it's not one that you like, you don't feel comfortable. One thing that we do here is try to respect the vulnerability, right? So we want to make sure that we're vulnerable, but everything ain't for everybody. So if it's something that you don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing, then you don't have to share. But ultimately, one thing that I try to be is very open to create a foundation for openness. And anybody else that joins the show, they try to do the same thing to be able to share that.
yes, sir.
So everybody has the opportunity to do whatever they feel comfortable. Again, I want to put the context of what cause and effect is, so we all are thinking and processing and moving in the same direction. We want to make sure that we understand that causes are where we at. Our thoughts, our emotions, our words, our actions, our habits, and our intentions. Those are the causes. Those are the foundations to our outcomes that we experience. And of course, facts are outcomes, experiences, circumstances, or results. Anything that winds up in it. That's the context that we asking these questions. And then we'll try to be intentional with the questions because the questions will guide us in certain areas. So for example, one thing that we're trying to expand on here is awareness, right? So some of these questions right now, the first couple of the, well, at least the first question that I asked you will support us in understanding our awareness of cause and effect. Like you said today, wind up, you know what I mean? Today is a perfect example of cause and effect, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know that this channel is mostly about healing and reshaping our identity and things like that. So try to be along in that line. Doo-doo-doo. So in the idea, in the context of bringing awareness of cause and effect in our own lives, what is a pattern that you see yourself repeating now, that your life is repeating for you now?
Um, it's, it's one of the ones that stumped me a little bit, not in a vulnerable sense, just trying to think
Right.
about how in life when you start to a lot of times when I think about repeatable patterns, I always go to my negative patterns. And
Right.
would reoccurs that's not necessarily on a positive vibe or wavelength or whatever. And a lot of those patterns happen to just be whether it's eating fast food, whether it's just not eating just unhealthy food, just generally,
Gotcha.
whether it's when I do see progress, like I like the sobriety journey and other habits I kick, all I focus on are the other habits that are negative that I still
Right.
do, which I think leads into another question that you had about what is my self talk. And a lot of my self talk, no matter how much progress I make, goes back to what is not progress, what is
Right.
negative about what I'm doing. And that is has been a pattern for as far as I can remember in my life where I can't just focus on the good. I always have
Right.
to, what could I also be doing better? You know, all right, I did this. I'm happy for all the 5 minutes. Now, what are we gonna do about this thing back here that I haven't addressed yet?
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Right.
that's a repeat. That's a pattern that continues to repeat itself in my life.
I can tell you this. I think that does definitely show a lot of awareness anyway, because just this idea of we talk a lot about self talk, right? And one of the reasons we wind up having this discussion is because we learn that words not aren't just words, but they also identify emotions. And we are understanding that when we have this self talk or how we talk about ourselves or think about ourselves, it winds up shaping the emotions we feel, right? Or well, scratch the emotions we experience, and then feelings wind up being the stories that we tell ourselves about those emotions. So being able to identify self-talk as a pattern in your life is important, and right in line on this. That's one of the first things I had to identify, and I had to use the support of friends and family, because it was some self-talk that came so normal to me
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't realize that it was even negative self-talk. So like, for example, I think I'm funny. People who hang with me, they think I'm funny. And
Yeah.
it's easy to say that somebody is funny, like, boy, you so crazy, right? And I never meant, I was sitting with a friend laughing, and I said, man, I'm crazy. And she was like, don't say that. I was like, dang, you right. Crazy is a negative word, right? How we've normalized some of this negative language. So being able to even identify
Mm-hmm.
that the self-talk is one of the problems, and then even important, identifying that you're really only doing it on one side of the coin, right? You're
Yep.
not flipping that coin over and having the self-talk. As a matter of fact, we've been reading this book Changeling in book club, and in the book, dude, his positive self-talk is, he always says, I am the god Apollo. His name is Apollo. So whenever he needs to encourage himself, he has a mantra, right? I am the god Apollo. At the beginning of the show, we do affirmation. We do breath work and affirmations. One of the reasons we do affirmation is so that we'll have those positive self-talk ideas to combat those negative self-talk. As we learned with the perpetual transmutation, positive energy consumes the negative energy. So all we need is the knowledge, the perspective, and awareness of it, and then we can necessarily apply the tools, right? So I think that was a huge one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The self-talk is a major pattern
For
in
sure.
people's lives, right? So next, we want to just think about some thoughts, emotional thoughts, and causes that wind up playing into this idea of cause and effect, right? So a question I would like to know is, what emotions generally drive your decisions? You can think, and when you're answering this question, you could think about emotions as a child, emotions as a teen, emotions as a young man, or how these emotions have changed a little bit. So, what emotions generally drive your decisions?
So, man, you got these deep questions. I know I read them. No, I've been thinking about them all day. But it's interesting because, like, I'm trying to think of what the word is for the emotion, but a lot of it has to do with I am constantly trying to prove myself, and I
Right.
don't necessarily know what to name that emotion wise. But I think it all comes down to, I mean, even for example, like I was supposed to be in my office today. I'm supposed to
Right.
be somewhere well lit, not in the garage with this, whatever. And it um I almost had to, like, even be even later here, just trying to give off this facade of, something, not a
Right.
facade per
I got
se,
you.
but trying to just make it look more professional,
I
even
got
though
it.
this is where I am, this is just where we are tonight, and just not letting it be. Um, and I think when it comes to what drives that, is like I don't want people. I feel like as a kid, even with the adults around me, I was always looked at as, not that smart, not
Right.
that this, not that guy. And so in business, my personal life, relationships, I'm always trying to, even though I'm not outwardly doing it, inwardly I'm like, I know I'm that guy, and I need y'all to
Right.
see I'm that guy no matter what. Even if I'm chilling, I want you to think I'm chilling because I'm choosing to.
Right.
I am that guy and I can do that. It's like this reverse thing. Even if I don't show it outwardly, it's like inwardly I'm always thinking of, how are these people perceiving me in this moment, versus just kind of just existing to be who I am, as a human person. So
Right.
um I think a lot of that, just comes down to, I guess, the childhood of not feeling heard or understood a lot. And and it happens now in my relationships when I don't get feel understood. It doesn't matter how deep it is. It could be as
Right.
simple as you don't agree with the color I said that's on the piece of paper. I'm going to be like, I'm going to take personal offense to the fact that you don't see it the way
Right.
I see it. And I think that just comes from just not being understood growing up, or feeling as if I wasn't understood or heard growing up. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that is so approval would definitely be the
Yeah.
word,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Now it's self approval, it's people of other people. I mean, other people approve. Because one of the things I want to give you a compliment on is the self awareness, that understanding that what people think of you does matter. Like we like to say, you don't care what people think of you, but that's not realistic. Again, because we're not functioning outside of the system.
And
We
it's
are
crazy.
a cog within the system, so what people think about us does matter, right?
And it's wild because I give off the facade that it doesn't matter what other people
Right.
think. I just know I want you to think it doesn't matter what you think, because if you think I care, then that also matters to me. Like
Right.
it's this
Right.
weird like circle of I don't want you to think that I care, but I care, and I need you to understand that I don't care. It's like this weird, you know, thing.
So it is weird, but one of the things that what I heard in saying that is manipulation, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And generally we wind up thinking about manipulation as a negative thing, but as we talked about with cause and effect, the law of cause and effect is neutral. So many of these things can be very neutral. Like manipulation is neutral.
Hmm.
How we use manipulation can be very not neutral, right? So I used the example of when I was a supervisor. I always had to manipulate the environment to get these adults to listen to me. They're
Oh
grown
yeah,
people. They not. I had to be manipulative, right? Even though I tried to make a good environment, even though my intentions were good, I
yeah,
still was manipulative, right?
yeah,
So even understanding that's understanding your alchemy, being able to manipulate the energies and the perception, because perception is nothing but an energy, right? And one of the things that we try to do is stop normalizing some of the greatness about us, right? So I'm specifically talking about this one thing because the ability to manipulate energies around you is a gift, right? Right. That's something normal. That is your alchemy, and that's something that you use for good, bad, and all things in between, right? So I
yep.
think that is excellent in being able to recognize that manipulation is a tool that you use, and now that we identified it, so
Yeah.
that's why I bet $10 you are very good at recognizing someone trying to be manipulative
Oh,
too, right? Cause game recognize game. It's in me. Like I'm manipulative, so I know it's somebody trying to manipulate me. You feel me? So, but it's accepting the neutrality of some of these words, and it's us. The feelings wind up being like again the stories that we tell ourselves. That approval one also is huge, and it's not just to be able to talk to you, but it's a discussion that we're having together because approval was one of the first things that we worked on as a family with the soul family, right? A lot of us
Mhm.
had approval seeking behaviors, and one of the things that we had to really really work on and touch and getting in touch with that child in ourselves, then our teenager, and then our younger selves, is that the first person that we have that has to give us that approval is ourselves, right? And we didn't realize how much we didn't approve of ourselves, right? And we started doing things to seek approval because we didn't get the approval of her. And sometimes that foundation comes from not being heard. So being heard becomes very important to us. So we work on our voice. We work on our communication skills so that we can necessarily be heard. But getting approval, right? Being approved, right? From people and ourselves wind up being somewhat of fuel that help guides us, right? So you like to know, you as a matter of fact, one of the reasons why approval behaviors support with you is because it's positive reinforcement, right? You
Hmm.
recognize that you thrive on positive reinforcement. That's where we started reshaping that ideas of approval seeking behaviors to we understand that we like positive reinforcement. We flip that coin over. So now because you attack these very differently, right? You use different tools to like you approval seeking, you use different tools than if positive reinforcement. So when we really identify what's going on is we want that positive reinforcement, and we
Hmm.
probably stand up or can be hyper vigilant against negative reinforcement. When somebody tell us we can't do, we probably go all the way out to prove that we can. Like, I'm about to show you. Like one of the things, one of the when to be to answer the question, one of the things that drive my decision, I used to be driven by the hate, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
We
Hmm.
hear people tell us, yo, I love when my haters, right? Yo, you are literally building your foundation on negative ideas. I love when somebody told me I couldn't do. You like, you tell me I can't do, I'm going to do, right?
You know the flip. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, you got it, bro.
It's the flip side of that for me is it's interesting. I'm surrounded by a lot of people who will pour into me in a positive way.
Right.
And so a part of me in this weird way feels that the reason it feels that I haven't made it somewhere farther
Right.
yet because I ain't don't got no haters. Where are
Right.
my haters at? I need somebody to doubt me because clearly that's the one thing that everybody, every successful person
Right.
say they got them haters that got them to the top. And
Right.
and that's and it's weird. It's like I know in my back of my head that doesn't make any sense to think that, but this society and my upbringing has just made me think because this all this positivity around me, there must be something wrong. It
Right.
can't be real. So yeah.
You know what's funny about that is that winds up supporting this idea that a lot of us are socialized, and to be motivated, we need that carrot dangled in front of us, right? And sometimes the naysayers wind up being the carrot that hangs in front of us, right? So part of this process for us is to be able to shift from not necessarily having that carrot, but having just that intrinsic motivation. You know what I mean? Because I 100% agree with you. Because I remember I read um the laws of power.
Hmm.
And one of the things he said there is like, if you don't have some enemies, go get you some, right? And I love that. I was like, hey, I need some haters. I was one of those people
Yeah.
like, where the haters at? Like, you know what I mean? But then I had to realize, what am I saying? Well, that because that winds up being one of those conversations. And what type of foundation am I building it? Am I building it on a positive idea or on that negative idea, right? You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
sir.
I had to recognize that a lot of times I was trying to build something positive on a negative idea, but I couldn't understand why it was so hard, why I had to
Hmm.
go through so many challenges, why it was just not as smooth as it should be when it's in alignment with my purpose or intended or in alignment with my intention. So I think that's huge. Being able to identify that and being able to discuss it, and also getting yourself the tools to be able to navigate some of those things, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Let me see. Let me see. So I want to think about responsibility
Hmm.
and this idea of responsibility without blame. So this next question is supposed to help us in this space of empowerment and not necessarily to shift away from this idea of guilt. Okay, hold on. So I think a good one in thinking about responsibilities is, what parts of your life do you feel like you have the most influence over?
I don't know why my thought went to my kids, but that's
Trust yourself. Natural
it did.
instincts. There you go.
Because I honestly, I mean, I understand how energy, well, not necessarily all the specifics about
I
energy,
got
but
it.
I understand that I understand the concept of I get what I put out. So if I
Right.
put in the work, if I put in the positive energy, I get that back. If I don't, then I
Right.
get something else back. Um, and I know that I can kind of shape my life by how I think and how I talk about myself and talk about others and
Right.
just being a light.
Right.
But I will still have these days like honestly like yesterday where bills are stacking, all these other things things in my life can feel like they're going great, but these other things can feel like they're still in the way of where I'm trying to be. And it
Right.
feels outside of my control. The only thing that really does feel in my control is how I shape the world for my kids and how I
Right.
help them perceive the world because they're so small right now.
Right.
And that's really the only thing I feel like I'm in control of. I know I don't control everything. They're clearly going to be
Right.
influenced by so many other things,
Of course.
but my wife and I have such a huge impact on them right now,
Right.
and that's the only thing I really feel like I have some kind of control over. Everything else is just kind of, you know, I do what I can, and I always tell my wife, we'll see what happens. I can't
You
really
know that's right.
I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but I'm gonna put in the work today, and we're gonna see what happens. If something goes wrong, then we're gonna pivot. That's really all I can guarantee with that.
No doubt, bro. I feel like your children popping in your mind just instinctively winds up being a reflection of your values, right? You know what I mean? And one thing that's kind of high on your values is the role that you wind up playing in your children's life, right? And I think your values in line with your intentions in the sense that you want to make you have intentions for making their life better, whatever that better means. You know what I mean? Making their life
Mhm.
easier, whatever that easier means. Making sure that they have the natural tools to be able to navigate that, right? And one thing that we talked about we talk about parenting and parents a lot on the
Mhm.
show, right? And one of the things is really coming to terms with how little control we do have over our
Yeah.
children. You feel me? Of one of the things that we do is um is really understanding the limits of our abilities, right? And ironically, I'll never forget when I got into leadership and went to this training or something. This lady was talking about, you know, how do you get another company to do what you say? Like, I work for one company, you work for another company. How I get y'all to do what I say? You feel me? And she said, ultimately, you have to learn the art of influence, right?
Mhm.
Because you can't control the decisions, you can't control the outcomes, you can only influence them, right? And when we start thinking about influences, that makes us also have to think a little bit deeper about our intentions, right? And what intentions are motivating this, right? And what foundations are these intentions built on? So, are we building, like we just talked about, are we building these good intentions on negative foundations? So,
Mhm.
if I was raised in a single parent home, so now I'm like, hey, I don't want my children to ever experience a single parent home, right? Are
Yeah.
those genuine intentions with that are in line with what I want for my children? Or are these intentions responses to the traumatic experiences of my life, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons why we have to start acknowledging how little control we do have and how
Mhm.
much power we do have, right? So your self talk does go down to your children. You know what I mean? My self
Mhm.
talk, the things that they hear, does go down to them. But what also goes down is all those positive things, us reshaping, having this conversation, you being able to have a different conversation, give them new perspectives. All those things wind up being in line with why you probably thought of them first, right?
Yes, sir.
And for myself, um, when I think about what do I feel like I have the most influence over right now, it will be my evolution, right?
I
Who
like
I'm
that.
becoming, how I'm
Mhm.
reshaping my identity, right? And one of the reasons I say that is because we work to this space where we identify that we deserve. I owe it to myself. I have a duty to myself to become the best version of myself, right? And recognizing how many ideas, actions, and behaviors aren't even mine and I don't even believe, right? So, for example, one that we built on a bunch was this idea of trust, right? So, on here, we say trust is to be given, not earned, right?
Mm.
And one of the reasons why we say that is because our relationship with trust is different than the tools that we were given. So we were given tools, don't trust strangers. That's a perfect example. We always we learned don't trust strangers, but in our life, sometimes strangers are exactly the person we have to trust.
It's most of
So
the
so
time.
is it true to continue applying don't trust strangers, right? And when it's a stranger, they don't have the time to earn your trust. You just
Yeah.
gotta give it to them, and then you wind up working with hope and all that stuff. So I think for
Hmm.
myself, I think the thing that I have the most control over is the evolution of me and who I am becoming, whatever that means. You know what I mean?
So it's interesting you say that because I am in that phase of not just with the sobriety thing, but just everything I'm doing right now to just be better and just accept or not accept what I've been accepting for so long,
Right.
and not just with myself because I've always the type before going down this path, I'd be like, man, people stop drinking and get all brand new on you.
Right.
And then when you start doing things and you start walking in a different purpose, you understand why people become brand new very quickly because you start to see the world in an
Through different
entirely
eyes.
different way.
Yeah.
And you like desperately want that for the people you care about to see it in that same way. And so like I'm at this place where I feel like, damn, I'm a whole hypocrite out here because I'm out here like trying to get people to be on the same wave with me and trying to, yo, we gotta look at watch these videos about energy and
You
spirituality and all these
heard
things, and I'm like, damn, I'm a whole fraud now.
right.
but but
Y-
I'm on my own evolution kind of journey right now, and it's just interesting you say that because I guess in a sense I do feel like I'm in control of that. Like I feel more in control of what happens to me
Yeah.
because I understand that it's mostly on me. Like it's not
Right.
like you said earlier in the conversation, it's not just random occurrences. Everything has something that preceded it
Right.
to bring you to this point. So, I'll just, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I think that's important. You pointed out something that was one of the toughest lessons that we all learn at the beginning of that. It's like when you start, once you get this information and you start this path, the first people you want to bring along are
Yep.
the people that you love and you care about. But they give you that cold dose of reality, and you begin to accept and understand that the healing is yours, not theirs. You know what I mean? And their path and their road may be different. So that was a tough lesson. Like they don't. That's yeah. Congratulations. I'm glad you're doing that.
I think you just taught me that lesson. Actually, I did. In my mind, I was like, I can still reach them. But
No,
now I have to kind of, but the way you just said it, it's like, no, I have to kind of accept that they might, meet them where they are kind of thing. And I
it's not
focus
your.
on my own journey kind of
Yep, it's
thing.
not your. As a matter of fact, one of the things we understand because we like to connect this to God, the universe, and our ancestors. But what will wind up happening, like I said, where we talked about positive reinforcement, is we just become models of behavior, right? So once we live in the light, the light is attracting. It attracts all types of bugs. So once it becomes our way of life, there's no way these bugs won't come attracted to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They'll naturally be attracted to it. Or if they don't, that is their own cross to bear, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of the reasons we want to take them along is something that we're working on now, the difference between responsibility and accountability. One of the reasons we want to take them along because we are responsible people and we are very comfortable with responsibility. We take responsibility, and responsibility requires a response, right? But one of the things we're doing now is understanding accountability, and accountability just requires identification. We got to be able to say what's at place. I'm like, all right, I know this person need healing. They may not be able to they may not be able to take it from me or the direction I'm giving now, and that's okay. I don't gotta do nothing about that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Being able to accept that. But that was one of the
Yeah.
coldest comforts we had to learn is that the healing is our process alone, alongside with do not seek approval from those still living in the trauma. You feel me? It was like, well, they not gonna understand because they still living by those traumatic ideas and thoughts, right? One more question for you, brother. We're gonna wrap
Yes,
it
sir.
up for the night.
Yes, sir.
Let me see. Okay, so I think this is a good one. So this one is supposed to be for some integration and insight, and it's one that I
Hmm.
had to process, and I still process all the time, right? And how has recognizing cause and effect changed how you see yourself?
Oh
Right,
man, it's given me so much more power. Like I
right,
see myself as definitely more like it doesn't really it's not that I don't get angry, I don't get upset,
right.
but these things don't feel like this forever continuum anymore. They don't feel
Facts.
like, that I'm just completely without control.
Right.
It's what I control is how I respond to everything. Like I
Okay.
can choose how I respond to I can choose to not do shit about it that day, that night. I can choose to just let it be, let the feelings feel whatever they
Right.
feel. And then the next day or the next other day, I can do something about it. I can make those choices. And because I understand that that small little switch in my head that went from I can't control this, this sucks to I can't control this, what am I going to do about it? Just that
Right.
question has transformed how I just approach life. Like I can have like yesterday, I can have a day or a night where I just don't feel up to par. I don't feel good about my situation. But the next day I wake up and I meditate again and I'm fine
You got the
because
power to
it
change.
is what it is. Like
Right.
life is gonna be life, and I can't control all of that other stuff, but I can control
Right.
what I do about it, which
No
is
doubt.
continue to move in my purpose, continue to move in, toward the goals that I'm reaching, the goals that I'm setting for myself, and then let things fall where they fall.
No
It
doubt.
doesn't mean you don't have a plan. It just means that when shit happens, you gotta just pivot
You got
and
to.
make
Right.
it work. Make it work regardless. And just that realization, about like with especially regarding cause and effect, even just through this conversation, just hearing you speak initially, when I joined, it's just like it's reaffirming, and it's also just giving me just understanding how much power does we have as a people. Like, and I feel like these are things that I'm instilling in my kids right now. We do what are we grateful for every night, and for like a month. A while ago, my son would always say, "I'm grateful for pain,"
I
because I'm
know that's
trying to
right.
get him to understand how pain is just a part of life,
It
and
is.
it is not going to go away. It is how you should appreciate it, because everything you go through, even the worst of the worst, it's a lesson,
Yes, it
and
does.
um, it's just something to just appreciate and just understand that you're always going to go through something. What are you going to do about it, kind of thing. This
Right.
that mindset has helped shift a lot of things for me. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what's up. It lets you definitely understand the bigger outcomes, the seasons and reasons, and everything has a time and a place. Because that's one of the things we had to necessarily work on too. Because I be like, if it's happening now, the time is now. But that's not necessarily. You feel me? That's not
yeah,
necessarily the cause. Like the
and it's
time
something
is.
it's something you said earlier too about the seeds. Like we want to plant seed, and I still have those thoughts now where I want the things that I'm doing right now to immediately pay off, but
Right.
I still understand that a lot of what I'm doing, I may not see the goal that I'm setting for it for a while. It could be a month from
Right.
now. It could be 3 years from now before I see that seed be just this full blown tree that I'm looking for. But that's okay. Things
Right.
happen when they're supposed to happen, and as long as you keep putting in the work, like and it might turn out to be something that you didn't even imagine it was going to be. What your
No
vision was
doubt.
could be entirely different by the time that seed is fully comes around full circle. So yeah.
Something as you were saying that I was thinking about, you're right. You don't always have the answers, and that was one of the things that used to have me stricken with decision making. What we call it analysis paralysis. One of the
Uh-huh.
reasons that I be stuck is because I need to know the outcome. But in leading people and in having vision, I recognize that sometimes the vision becomes clearer when you necessarily do the work, right? So
Hmm.
we don't always know what's up ahead. But when we get there, we'll be able to see what's there, right? Right. So, and then in tying into what you say, also, it helps us to understand why we don't ask for patience. So there are people who are praying for patience, and one thing that we learned here is how quickly things respond. So we be focusing on how the time delay, but some things are immediately. And as soon as we say we want something, universe, God, ancestors, whatever, puts us in place to test that, right? And sometimes we mislabel it. So I don't ask for patience because the natural process of life will give you patience. Dealing with time delay alone will give you patience. So I don't need to ask for patience when life is already giving me that. You know what I mean? So I don't ask for things that's already in abundance for me when I reach and grab for those things, right? So I think that is huge in what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying, and being careful, right? So for me, when I think about cause and effect, one of the things it wound up having to do for me is it was a sobering idea, right?
Yeah.
Because I had to accept that I am the problem. I am the cause for all these effects, right? And we love
Yeah.
to be able to be like, it ain't me, it was them, right? But I had to recognize that I am the cause of these effects, right? And then I had to dig deeper on, well, what is causing these causes? Because even the causes can have causes sometimes, right? So what is causing these causes? Like, why am I thinking like that? Why am I making these decisions? Like, why am I choosing this type of partner? Why am I choosing this type of relationship? Why am I choosing this type of work environment, right? Because one of the things we recognize is that familiar becomes safe, right? So I was taught you work hard. So familiar is working hard, right? All the way up until I wound up being on a therapist couch and on leave because working hard was familiar to me. Taking breaks and vacations was not. But
Yeah.
now I understand there's a balance in life. Working hard is cool. It's a time and a place for everything. But we are going to have to take some vacations. So the cause and effect taught me that I am the cause, and I could change the causes by changing my thoughts, ideas, and intentions, and then understanding that it isn't a one shot deal. So it gives me the opportunity to work on grace and forgiveness, starting with myself. Because when I make these changes, or when I realize that I'm gonna make them again, because I'm an infant in making
Yeah.
healthy decisions. I'm a 2 year old. So soon as I get back out there, because soon as I say I want to make healthy decisions, universe, God, ancestors gonna put me in a position like, okay, let's see what you do.
Yep.
Soon as I open my eyes, and I'm like, dang, I done made that mistake again. I thought I got it. No, I just got the knowledge of it. I
Yeah.
still have to walk that bridge, which is the wisdom. To get the wisdom, I gotta the manifestation of that knowledge. I gotta practice it. And then after I practice it a while, then I can get the understanding. So cause and effect, realize I'm the problem. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? As
I'm the
much
problem.
as
I
as
like
much
that.
as I picked up, all they are, like we talk about relationships, was I'm thinking in the term of not just romantic, but we say
Yeah.
relationships are reflective of our past, present, and future. They show us where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. And everybody we pick is a reflection of us, if not just to tell us what we really think about ourselves. You feel
Whew,
me? So that's
man.
why I had to come to I had to have some what they call come to Jesus moments with myself. And I had to be realistic and authentic with myself. And I'm like, man, I definitely been lying to myself for
Yes,
real
sir.
for a long time. So that's why I tell people all the time, we be lying to ourselves. Who we think we are ain't who we are.
Yeah,
For
not at
real.
all.
For
I
real, for
love that.
real.
That's awesome, man. Well, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you, inviting me on this show. I definitely want to check out the book club too. So, like, send me more information on that. Um, and yeah, this was powerful tonight for me. And again, sorry for the delay and me
It's
getting
all
on, but
good, bro.
this was a dope conversation, man. I appreciate this.
I appreciate you joining. I appreciate your energy. One thing that we try to do on here is have a little more men. Right now, the women be joining, but men be like, "Hey,
Oh,
I get a
look,
couple of men." So I'm
look,
glad that
I got a nonprofit focused on healing too, doing mental health and stuff, and it's mostly women are my attendees. So,
no doubt. So in that space, bro, if you ever want to do something like it's something specific you want to talk to the people about, you
yes,
more
sir.
than welcome. I open the platform for you. If you ever want me to build with your people, I know you in a connection with these people. I mean, with all types of healers, you can go ahead. And this is I say this too. As this point, depending on what it is, and I use that loosely. I
Yeah,
generally
right.
don't charge for my individual sessions. I don't charge for the services. I do charge for products. So and
Okay,
I know
okay.
you understand. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
like if a
sir.
person want to get an energy reading or stuff like that, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, come on, let's do that work. Now, if you want me to do it for a group of people, like it's 10 people here, you're gonna have to give me a little bit of bread.
Look, I got you. Look, we can
But
talk because I want to
outs
get more into that in that space with what we do with the foundation. So
no
yeah, I'm
doubt. So
down.
just we reach out. We always available. Like I said, this pathway is open. So if you think of something or if you hear, you can go back and look at a couple of other episodes because some of the things that we came up, some of the things that we discussed, kind of came up. Like we've gone through identifying our generational curses, so we can identify our
Oh
blessings.
wow.
We talked about basically quantum mechanics and how once we make a decision, we literally like we understand that all things are possible. But once we
Yeah.
make a decision, we kill all the possibilities, right? So we stepping back to open up to do the possibilities and all that thing. So anything that you have to give, brother, I look at you. You got a lot of stuff going on. Then you're more than welcome to give. And anything that I can give to your tribe or your people, don't hesitate to ask as well, brother.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Same here, and I appreciate that, and definitely we'll definitely be collaborating on more things.
No doubt, brother. We got the you don't even got we don't even got to go through the group chat no more. You can get you can go straight
Connect
to it,
now. Yes, sir.
brother. Oh, and outside of that, bro, I don't know if you know because I'm so far from it a lot of times now. But man, my whole life is children and families. So if you ever got questions or anything like that,
I'm about to say
man,
I'm about to pick your brain
bro,
on that,
I
especially from a
listen.
parenting standpoint.
Children and families. And I mean even parent curriculums, all types of things. I'm a child and family expert. That's probably the only thing
I
I'm an
love that.
expert in. Everything else I just know a lot about. But that's
Oh, I
the
love
only
that, man.
thing, bro. So anything like that, man, reach out to me, man. Again, I appreciate you. Thank you for
Yes,
your
sir.
time. And I look forward to doing some more building with you, brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. You have a
All
good
right, my
rest of your
man.
evening.
Have a great one.
You too. Peace.
All right, family. With that, we going to wrap up tonight's show. It is what time is it? KOS. We might be able to catch a little bit of cat over there, so go ahead and support the cat family. Next week we will finish up. The law of cause and effect. Just a few more things that we do, and we'll move into the law of compensation. because we really want to know, what will we be receiving back from all this work? What will we, our compensation, money, opportunities, blessings, however we get it. I thank you for your time. Don't forget to catch us Thursday night, 7 p.m. for book club. We are continuing to read Changeling by Victor Laval. So support the family. If you got some time, make sure you go over to TikTok, support Cat's Kitchen as she doing the verses. I thank you. I appreciate you. Until next time, family. Toddy, I appreciate you. Stayed for a long time. Congratulations, girl. Peace, family. Oh, shoot. There we go.